All right, so with such a large number of people who are suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's, what can we do to kind of train our brain to be better and stave off some of these signs of Alzheimer's and dementia? So let's take a look at them. Number one is we can go ahead and exercise our brain 30 to 45 minutes a day. Yeah, exercise. That means doing different things, doing puzzles, doing things like that, and exercising our brain. Now, earlier this year, I went through a pretty bad brain injury, which left me with a lot of deficit, but I was able to recover. Thank God I had really, really good doctors. So a lot of the things they had me doing in the hospital and when I got out of the hospital, I had physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. Yeah, speech therapy. It was kind of weird because I felt like I was talking okay, but they said, no, what the speech therapy does is it reroutes the impulse signals around the damaged areas of my brain. And it really worked out well. And I was really impressed with how I felt after I would get done with one of those speech therapy sessions. So what most of the speech therapy sessions would look like was a lot of memorization. And the ones that they worked the hardest on, they would take like a group of 20 words, or they would take a section of 20 words and group it into 4 sections with about 5 words per group, and they would be associated. They would be like some would be about sports, some would be about colors, some might be about travel, or different countries. And then you would have to repeat these words back by which section, and like say if they broke out countries, you would have to go through and you would, after you memorized it for about 30 seconds, then you would have to go by and say group 1 was Spain and Portugal, group 2 was 2 other countries, and things like that. And it was a lot about memorization. And I just remember feeling when I would get done that I could talk faster and I just felt better. So having my brain and exercising my brain for that hour really made me feel a lot better. And as you can tell now, if you've been following the channel, you will notice earlier in the year that I was talking much slower, and my expressions were a lot different. And I was really struggling to speak clearly and do things properly the right way. But YouTube is a big part of my rehabilitation also. So I'd like to pause the video here for a minute and ask you if you'd go down and leave me a comment. This little channel's starting to grow a little bit of momentum, and it would help YouTube's algorithm, find this audience and spread this out to a larger audience if I had more interaction. So go down in the comments, just let me know where you're from and whether, what age you are, and if you feel like you're starting to lose words, as I would say. That was when I noticed, during my 50s that I was starting to lose words in a conversation and people were having to correct me and things like that. So let me know where you are in that journey. All right, so getting back to it, how could YouTube help? Well, you got to sit down on the computer and you have to research what topics you want to make the videos on. And then you have to go ahead, and what I do is I write a fairly detailed script on it, and then I memorize most of that script. Not all of it. I've still got it here sitting in front of me. I look at it every once in a while. You'll see my eyes go down and glance down at it. But what that does is that occupies my brain. It exercises my brain, and it gives me that memorization, and the research is really good as well. So before I even went into therapy in the hospital, when I was in ICU, I spent 29 days in ICU, and what they would have me do is Sudoku. Yeah, and that was probably the first, exercises that they had me doing, trying to get those impulses rerouted around in my brain. So Sudoku is a really good one. The other thing I ran into here just a little while ago was a Rubik's Cube. Now, a Rubik's Cube, you know, if you've looked at it and you've ever toyed around with it for a minute, you'll kind of look at it and say, wow, that's something else, because you can't get them, you know, you can't get the colors where you want them. But they have what they call algorithms. Believe it or not, they do call them algorithms that you use, and you have to memorize those moves. You know, it may be 4, 5, or 6 different moves you have to memorize to move one color, you know, to a different location on the cube. And so you have to memorize all those. So a Rubik's Cube is, for me anyway, a really good method of doing some, you know, well, I don't want to call it speech therapy, but for doing some therapy and exercising your brain. So earlier I mentioned that in my 50s that I had noticed that I started losing words and things like that. And, you know, it didn't take long for me to figure out that it was normally, you know, certain parts of the day when I was a little more tired, and it would normally be in a conversation I was having with somebody. Like when I was giving presentations or things like that, you know, I would still do pretty good. I might have to slow down, I may have to stop, take a strategic pause once in a while, but it wasn't too bad. So it didn't take long for me to figure out that a lot of it was because I was basically kind of getting bored. And my job had kind of hit that point in my career where I was starting to peak out, and, you know, I had done most of what I wanted to do, and you know, they had me doing a lot of repetition, and I had changed departments and went into engineering, where I was doing a lot more statistical data and writing a lot of procedures rather than being out in the field and doing all the time and troubleshooting and doing things like that. So when I was about 57, I think it was, I went ahead and I started this YouTube channel, not this one, but the one before. I originally had started a fishing channel on fishing sonar products. And just long story short, I had good success with that channel, but it was costing too much to try to, you know, keep up with the sonar industry. So, you know, it didn't make sense, because I was losing money on the channel. But it was a pretty successful channel, and it's still out there, and it's doing okay. But I'm just not keeping up with the latest trends on the sonar. Just can't really afford to. Too expensive. But anyway, what it taught me was, like I said before, was doing the YouTube. I started really researching editing and how to edit videos and you know, photography and things like that. And I really got into that, and all of a sudden, you know, I started talking faster, and, you know, my speech got better, and I noticed that it was all improving. So I kept doing that, and I kept that going. Well, it was I think 2000, and this is 2025, so, you know, a little over 4 years I've been doing this now, and I really enjoy it, and it really has helped me in my cognitive abilities. So here's a little tip, because my wife and I both are about the same age, and she's a little more, or I'm a little more advanced in my brain loss than she is, so she's a little bit behind me. But if you live with somebody who's starting to lose their words and, you know, says things in conversation, trust me, what you don't want to do is you don't want to correct them all the time. As for me going through that personally, and, you know, watching my wife going through it now and again, it really doesn't help anything to keep correcting them. If you need clarification on something they said because they put the wrong word in there, just repeat the sentence back to them in a different way or something like that. Try to make them feel like they're not dumb or anything like that, because it really is fairly natural once you reach into your 50s. And, you know, I don't think it's early onset of dementia yet or anything like that. Like I say, with me, I was able to bring myself out of it, and basically just by stimulating or exercising my brain a few minutes every day. So if this video's helped you, I'd appreciate it if you'd reach down, hit that like button, and watch this video next.